Hello, welcome to Charisma Explains It All. I'm Matthew, and this is Fallout 76. Now that the big Bethesda E3 presentation has come and gone, what do we know? What don't we know? What the heck is this game going to be like, and are we going to like it? I'm here with a short video to hopefully answer some of those questions, so let's get to it. So, what do we know? Well, bare bones. The game is called Fallout 76. It's been 4 years in the making, and it hits shelves 14 November 2018. As rumored, it takes place in West Virginia. It is the earliest game in the franchise, taking place only 25 years after the bombs fell. And most crucially, it is completely, entirely, 100% online. Now, technologically speaking, Fallout 76 is 4 times the size of Fallout 4, with graphics boasting 16 times the detail, with distant weather systems visible from across the map. The servers being used to host the game are 100% dedicated, according to Bethesda director and executive producer Todd Howard, and there will even be a public beta test period, which can be signed up for simply by pre-ordering the game, though we don't yet have a date on when that will begin or how long it will last for. Now, according to Todd Howard, even though it's online, if you want to play 76 solo, you can. Quote the Todd, "You'll be who you want, exploring a huge world, doing quests, experiencing a story, leveling up." However, they definitely seem to be encouraging folks to play with a group of friends. The cute little Vault Tech films they showed included a very sad Vault Boy wandering the wasteland alone before meeting up with some pals, and Todd says that while you can play solo, it's definitely easier to team up and build together. It wasn't specifically stated, but based on the gameplay footage we saw, it seems that team sizes are limited to 4 players. It's unclear if you'll be able to group up with, say, 8 players and be split into 2 teams of 4, for some friendly PvP action, or if you'll be limited to picking fights with random players and NPC monsters. Todd also said that you'll be on the map with dozens of players, not hundreds or thousands, which definitely alleviates some of the worries folks were having about a very crowded post-apocalypse. Particularly if the map is 4 times the size of Fallout 4's, I don't think constant griefing will be a huge problem. It does raise some interesting questions about how settlement building and persistence will work in the game, but we'll get to that in a little bit. With regard to settlements, you can not only build wherever you want, so you're no longer tied to specific predetermined settlement locations like in Fallout 4, but you can also apparently move your settlement once it's built. This is apparently accomplished with the camp device, which you appear to get for free as you're leaving the vault. Now, the way Todd described the online elements of the game make it sound extremely fluid. Quote the Todd, "Your character isn't tied to one server. In fact, you'll never even see a server when you play. You'll be in a world with dozens, not hundreds and not thousands of other players. It's the apocalypse, it's not an amusement park. And you'll be able to join your friends whenever you want, and all of your progression goes with you." So that all sounds great. But does that then mean that the settlements you build aren't persistent? Like if you log out, is your settlement still there, subject to attack or pilfering? And if so, how does that work? If you build a settlement during a solo play session and then want to show it off to your friends in a co-op session. My guess, and bear in mind that I know very little about MMOs and online game servers and whatnot, but my guess is that when you log out, your settlement pops back into your camp device, and then when you log back in, you can pop your settlement back out again. Which feels a little awkward and lacking in realism, but I suppose it would be the best solution to a fluid online world where you're not tied to a single server. Again, though, that's only a guess. Bethesda also seemed to be leaning into the idea of an emergent narrative for Fallout 76, though Todd contradicted himself a little here. He said that you'll be doing quests and experiencing a story, but he also said, "By creating a wide open world with very few rules, we have a game, more than any game that we've ever done, where the choices are yours, where you'll decide what happens. You'll decide the heroes and you'll decide the villains." So, which is it? Will the quests only be fetch or destroy quests given by the Overseer, and will the story only be an emergent narrative? Is there an overarching story? Will there be seasons like with World of Warcraft or The Elder Scrolls Online? Todd said in a GameSlice interview, link below, that once they find out what players like and want more of, they'll be adding to and tweaking the game accordingly, which is cool. He also says that while there are no NPCs, there are quote-unquote found world quests, granted by, exploration of terminals and discovery of holotapes. Those types of quests are always fun and some of the best parts of Fallout, in my opinion, but they don't suggest a larger narrative. If 76's story is mostly just go out there and make your own story, then they seem to be taking to heart the complaints that people felt railroaded, no pun intended, in 3 and 4, though maybe a little too much to heart. As mentioned, the game takes place in West Virginia and is apparently heavily influenced by that area's folklore. There are 6 distinct regions, which we learned from an on-screen graphic are called Toxic Valley, the Forest, which is where Vault 76 is, Ash Heap, Savage Divide, the Mire, and Cranberry Bog. There are also a host of new creatures and mutations, including the Grafton creature, a local West Virginia cryptid, along with giant mutant sloths, a huge mutant bat called a Scorch Beast, some kind of ghoul variant called a Scorch Conqueror, and a few things we didn't get names for, like a giant fucking tarantula with a goddamn beehive on its back, and whatever this fucking thing is, I don't even know. There are also a bunch of creatures familiar to Fallout fans making their return, such as Death Claws, Super Mutants, Sentry Bots and Protectatrons, and Feral Ghouls, although it being only 25 years since the war, the ghouls apparently still have the outfits and items they had on them when they were human. The super mutants, one assumes, are the ones from Vault 87 and are capturing humans to use in their experiments, as we saw in Fallout 3. Now, one big reveal was that there are nuclear missile sites on the map, and if you gather the different pieces of an access code, you can launch a nuke at a target of your choosing. This has a lot of people worried and upset, and indeed, I commented on Twitter that I couldn't wait to be nuked and then teabagged by some asshole 12-year-old. After hearing the devs talk about this, though, I think we're all worried for nothing. For one thing, the Vault-Tec film did suggest that nuking an area would yield rare and valuable resources, so that may wind up being the main motivation for someone nuking an area rather than just being an ass. For another, the devs have said that launching a nuke is designed to be the end game, and that Fallout 76's structure is built around a cyclical nuclear war. This suggests, first of all, that getting those nuclear launch codes is fairly difficult. Indeed, 6 launch codes in 6 discrete areas on the map looks as though you'll be searching literally all over the map for the codes. Which suggests in turn that launching a nuke is no easy feat. People have also suggested that having launchable nukes in-game cheapens the impact of the nuclear war Fallout is based around, and that this is just more proof Bethesda is ruining Fallout, give it back to Obsidian, etc., etc. But I'd argue that a never-ending cycle of nuclear war taking place in the aftermath of a nuclear war sounds exactly like the kind of Fallout we've all come to know and love. I mean, what's more Fallout than people refusing to learn from the past? This does, however, once again raise the question of persistence in the game world. Once you nuke an area, that area is irradiated and different creatures and loot spawns there. That's meant to be incentive for getting the launch codes, according to the devs, those rare spawns, not griefing another group of players. So how long does that area stay irradiated? Presumably it's got to be a little while at least to give players a chance to get to that site on the map and for at least the bare minimum appearance of verisimilitude. So again, what happens when you log off? If you're on a server where location A gets nuked, then you log out and back in again, is location A still irradiated when you log back in? Or say you're in a server where location A gets nuked, but your friend isn't. Next time you two play together, which version of reality will the game snap to? Yours, where the location is irradiated, or your friend's, where the location isn't? It raises some interesting questions about how the game world works. A few other interesting details we were able to glean from the footage. PvP appears to earn you experience and caps. Now, if there are no NPCs, we can assume there are no merchants either, which makes sense given the game's time frame. It does make me wonder, though, how robust the communication system between non-allied characters will be, and if there'll be some sort of barter mechanic a la Fallout 1 where you can offer items for trade and another player can accept or reject or make their own counteroffer, which could be pretty cool. Speaking of PvP, Todd said that death never means the loss of your progression or your character, but he didn't say anything about the stuff you might be carrying around, so it's unclear if you can loot the bodies of the other players you kill and take their stuff. The HUD shows the level of whoever you're fighting, NPC or player. Todd did confirm in the Game Slice interview that VATS is in fact part of Fallout 76, which I was not expecting, given that the game is online and your enemies are, experiencing time at the same rate you are. The twist here is that this version of VATS will not freeze or slow down time as it has in previous Fallouts, but you'll still be able to target specific body parts and all that, so that should be interesting. It'll definitely require some getting used to, but it should be fun. It's a nice way to include players who aren't as skilled at first-person shooters, like myself. There are emotes, a photo mode, and you can apparently start a band. The power armor appears to have a ton of different variants and is presumably highly customizable. We don't know yet who's composing the music for the game, but to my ears at least, the small bit of music we heard in the preview sounded more like Skyrim than Fallout 4. Take that as you will. Todd says in the Game Slice interview that while mods are not available at launch, it is something they're committed to making available. It sounds like they're looking into the idea of private servers, which could then be modded, and that sounds interesting. As far as buying the game, there is a special edition collector set available, though at this point it may already be sold out. It includes a wearable T-51 power armor helmet. a game map that glows in the dark, and a bunch of Fallout miniatures. It also includes the Tricentennial Edition of the game, which includes some in-game crafting mods and unique outfits. The Tricentennial Edition on its own costs $80, and the Power Armor Edition runs $200. The base game is the usual $60. And last but certainly not least, according to Polygon, the cover of Take Me Home Country Roads from the trailers will be released on iTunes on July 4th. Happy America Day! I am actually getting pretty excited for this game. It certainly looks gorgeous. The setting and the time period are really intriguing, and the new monsters they've cooked up look fucking horrifying, which I love. And while online might not necessarily have been my first choice, I'll admit I'm curious to see how it works and evolves over time. I mean, I can deal with there being only dozens of other players on a huge map. This isn't going to be PUBG. I think it can work and still feel like Fallout. And, frankly, wandering the wasteland with a few friends sounds like fun. And look, this isn't Fallout 5. If it were, I'd be worried. But this is a spin-off, the New Vegas of this generation. Bethesda wants to try something new and different, and, why shouldn't they? Besides, it's Fallout. Of course I'm going to be firing it up on day one with the rest of you. Just don't nuke me right away, okay?